Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Show, where we talk about all components of business and how to utilize them for exponential growth. My name is Athin Cassiotis. I'm a business strategist who helps business owners grow and scale to create freedom and choice. And today, I have an awesome guest. He's a consultant, content marketing expert, and the founder of Story Power Marketing. He's a digital marketing pioneer who founded the email marketing software and services company MarketVolt in 2001, before most business people had even heard of email marketing. And today, coaches, consultants, and other experts hire him to transform their content from boring to brilliant, turn marketing from frustrating to fun, and convert results from pitfall to profitable. Welcome, Tom Ruwitch, and thank you for being on my show.
Thank you, Athin. Really happy to be here.
Yeah, awesome, mate. I'm sure it's going to be a great show today for everyone watching and listening. So you're a very successful entrepreneur. So for those people who don't know who you are, please introduce yourself by telling us about you and your journey.
Sure. So you mentioned that back in 2001, I founded an email service provider company, email software to create, deliver, and track campaigns. That was back in the day when very few people had heard of email marketing. We were at this thing very early. And as clients began to sign up for our email marketing software, they would say things to me like, "Oh, great, now we have the software, sell us a list." And we'd say, no, we're not going to sell you a list. You build a list. Build a list? What does that mean? And then we were having conversations with our clients about lead generation and landing pages and improving their website and funnels and follow-up and all these things. And we realized that as powerful as this software was, our clients needed help. And so we pivoted pretty early in our history to build around the email marketing software company a marketing agency. And so starting around 2003 or so, we began to provide do-it-for-you services, do-it-with-you services, coaching, consulting around all things marketing to help them take best advantage of the tool that they were licensing from us. And what happened over the 19 years that I ran MarketVolt, I began to see more and more clients who were always chasing the shiny objects, the next tool, the next tactic, and so forth. And when things weren't going well in their marketing, for whatever the reason might be, they would look for a new tool or give me a new tactic. Oh, I need a better email marketing engine, or I need a better social media platform management, or I need a better funnel design or something like that. What we observed from where we were sitting is that 99% of the time that somebody was spinning their wheels with their marketing, it was because the content that they were putting out there was the same old boring blah, blah, blah stuff. And they weren't doing anything to set themselves apart, to stand above their competitors. And so we began to spend a lot of time coaching our clients, helping them transform their content, turn content from the same old boring blah, blah, blah stuff to something that's brilliant, something that's captivating, something that's entertaining, something that's story powered. And so in 2019, when I sold MarketVolt, the software, I continued as a consultant and a coach, but my focus became, let's really spend time with people on how to transform their content. So in that year, or just after, the very beginning of 2020, I founded Story Power Marketing. And that's really a continuation of the work that I was doing in MarketVolt. And our promise is that we help coaches and consultants power up their content because they're, frustrated when prospects tune out and move on, and they want to transform their content from boring to brilliant. They want to transform the marketing process from frustrating to fun. And in the end, they want to convert the bottom line from, pitiful to profitable. So that's our promise. And that's what we do with our clients. We teach them how to put great, captivating content out there, which is especially important right now when everybody is moving to the mushy AI generated middle. We'll talk about that some more, I'm sure. So
yeah, Awesome, mate. Love that. Great story. Very powerful, and to get you to where you are, and interesting selling that just before COVID, and then the new thing, and then being
Yeah.
in the world where we are now, which is even more needed, definitely in how we're going. So, obviously it's a lot around stories about what you do, and some of the big people out there that have big stories that you see and like, wow. And some people might think like, I don't have like a story like this, like that. So, how would you talk to people, that say, oh, I don't really have a story?
Yeah, I hear it all the time. Oh, Tom, storytelling, easy for you to say, easy for Steve Jobs to say, or Richard Branson or whatever. They, story, big legendary origin stories. Well, my answer to that is number one, everybody has an interesting story, or really it's stories in their past, in their present, and will help you draw on those. But let's press pause for a minute, because when we start, it's not, quit worrying about you and your story. It's all about your prospects. And the first place we go when we start working with clients on creating captivating content is, where are their prospects? Where is their story? And it's really when you're selling something, whether it's in a B2C business or a B2B business, what you're doing is you're helping a customer on a journey from a before to an after, from frustration to satisfaction, from fear to comfort, from stuck to zooming forward, whatever it may be. And understanding the emotional journeys that your prospects wish to take and that your products enable is where the stories begin to reveal themselves. The stories that you tell, if you are a character in those stories, if they are about you, they only matter and they only resonate to the extent that they reflect your prospect's journey. So we start with what we call story discovery, really digging deep into what makes your prospects tick. And once you've done that, you begin to have building blocks that you can assemble and tie into anecdotes that may be about you, maybe about something you read, maybe about something you saw in the movies, but you're ultimately tying them to the prospect's journey, and that's what makes them resonate and stand out and be memorable for your clients.
Yeah, awesome. Love that. And storytelling, the way people tell stories, is very important and can be different, because I know in my experience as well, some people can tell a story, it's really complicated and it's a bit hard to follow, whereas other people, compared to like a simple story. So what are your thoughts on how we should articulate it to get, the maximum impact?
Yeah, I lean to simple. And here's the thing that happens in this industry. There are a lot of people who are out there telling us how to do stories, and so-called storytelling experts. And my belief is that most of them are overcomplicating this thing. They want to liken business storytelling to writing a screenplay. They compare it to Star Wars or The Godfather or Casablanca, and you have plot and resolution and blah, all these things, elements, multiple elements. I know one coach out there who has a 10-step formula for telling a business story. And I have people who come to me and they're like, Tom, I just want to write a decent email. I don't want to keep track of 10 steps. And that's where we get back to this thing that I was talking about, just focusing on your prospect's journey. Our framework is what we call the 3E storytelling framework. And the 3Es are this: empathize, envision, enable. And by empathize, what we mean is put yourselves in your prospect's shoes, understand where they are, envision, understand where they want to be, or in many cases, reveal to them where they can go. Sometimes they don't really know what the possibilities are, what's on the other side of the mountain. So you're revealing possibilities, but it's up to you to help them envision that. So empathize, where are they starting? Envision, where can they go? And then connect the dots, build the bridge between the two. Enable. Enable is all about how your products and services make that journey possible. And if you can think about it from that perspective, Then what will happen is the everyday things that are happening in your life. It might be, again, something that happened to you, just some funny or interesting story. It might be a scene you saw in a movie, a thing you read in a book. You can begin to connect those things as parables that are helping demonstrate how your products or services are enabling that journey from before to after. But if that journey from before to after and your products and services and how they enable the journey are not part of the package, then it's just a meaningless anecdote. It's just bar talk or small talk. But if you understand the 3 E's and only the 3 E's, you're in a place where you can turn everyday anecdotes into meaningful business parables that resonate with your prospects. And it can be that simple.
Yeah, awesome. I love the simplicity of that. Always helps. And yeah. Humans do love things in threes too. So it's a great thing to have a 3-step process. So, and I know a lot of the time, because people will probably have to change and upgrade themselves to be able to do this over time. And there might be some habits or some things that people need to do to really get into the flow of making this a natural thing about what they do. So what are some tips that you can give us that, you know, how to transition of what we need to be thinking about to, you know, make sure that we're doing it consistently, you know, going forward?
Yeah, and so one of the habits, and I'm glad you use that word habit because it really is critical. One of the habits is just to begin to write. You know, even if the content that you're putting out there more often than not is video as much as it is an email or a social post, begin to write. Do a daily journal. Record those things that you're seeing and hearing. Pay attention to the world around you and write down those things that are interesting or funny or fun or that you would tell a friend. And we all have these things going on, and just be in the practice of putting them down. Don't worry about where's the business connection. Don't worry about, am I writing it well? All of that, just get in the habit, and all of that will become easier the more that you do it. And then as you begin to learn the methods by which you can connect things to a meaningful business building story, or turn it into a blog post or an email or a video, you'll have that fodder, you'll have those building blocks in your journal or wherever you put them. The other thing is developing what I call a habit of noticing. And what I mean by that is, as you discover your prospect stories and familiarize yourself with, here are the ideas that I want to communicate. Here's how I help you get from A to B, understanding, defining A and B, defining D to E, defining F to G, and so forth. As you develop that and discover the story, what will happen is, if you're paying attention to the things you're seeing, the things you're reading, the things a coach says on a podcast, something interesting that's said on a TV show, a funny thing that you read in a book, noticing those things and being alert to them, it's a habit that you develop. And all of a sudden you find great hooks for the emails or the social posts or the videos that you're going to put out there. There's more to it than I've just explained, but a habit of writing and a habit of noticing, those two things become forces that really drive great content creation.
Yeah, awesome. Love that. And let's delve a little bit deeper into the writing element, right? Because not everyone's a copywriter. You know, they might have issues and go, I don't know, like, what, you know, is this a good enough hook, or what do I write in this post and things like that. So if people are getting in their head a little bit, or they've got a bit of writer's block or something, what are your thoughts on how you can, you know, really move forward in those moments?
Yeah, so there's a copywriter from the 60s, 70s, 80s, a guy named Eugene Schwartz, who was probably the most prolific direct response copywriter, ad man, madman of his day. And he made millions and millions and millions of dollars for his clients and for himself. And he claims he never once suffered from writer's block. I don't know how many millions of words he wrote, but he claims he never once suffered from writer's block. And when he was asked to explain this, he said, copy is not written, copy is assembled. And this goes back to everything that we've been talking about before, that what happens is that too many people sit down in front of a blank sheet of paper or a blank screen, and they're thinking, all right, I need to write some creative content, I would need to put a story out there, I need to make an email. And it's sort of once upon a time, now what? And they feel stuck and they suffer from writer's block, and it's frustrating, and they are hesitant to go to the computer the next time because they know they're going to have that dreaded feeling again. But what Schwartz was talking about, and what we've adopted and what we teach, is that when you do these things we call story discovery, you're gathering figurative building blocks. And when you sit down to write in front of that blank screen, you actually are just plucking things you've already gathered and assembling them into an organized structure. And it's so much more comfortable, and it's so much more easy than it is if you just sort of have some commitment. I'm going to write a weekly email or a monthly email or a daily email, and oh, it's email time, and I'm going to sit down in front of the computer, and I've not done any of the work in advance. It's not easy. It's not, no effort, but it can feel simple if you gather the building blocks. And the gathering of the building blocks, story discovery, is something that anyone, no matter how good a writer or not they may feel, anyone can learn to discover the story, gather the building blocks. A lot of it can be delegated to an assistant, a virtual assistant, whatever the case may be. And then when it's time for you to put the content out there, it's assembly, not magic. You don't have to be a creative genius. You don't have to summon the muse and hope that the creative well starts flowing. It is a systematic process that anyone can learn, and anyone can master, and anyone can do and stand out doing if they go through the process and learn how to do it.
Yeah, awesome. Love that, mate. And one thing that's coming up for me is around stories. And I know there's two elements of this, right? Where we can say our own stories, but there's also metaphor stories, that we can use in what we do. So I'd love to hear your thoughts around, is it better to focus on one and the other, or, maybe even use a combination of these things when, dealing with content or connecting, things to people in our market like that. So yeah, just I'd love to hear your thoughts around the use of them.
Yeah. I mean, so I will do both. And it's interesting. I have an idea for an email that built around the idea of battening down the hatches. This grew out of an email that I wrote just the other day, where I used the phrase batten down the hatches because it's tied to the fact that right now, this is mid-December that we're recording this episode, and there's been a lot of talk in the last couple of weeks about artificial intelligence copywriting. And there are a lot of people who write for a living or who create marketing material for a living who are scared out of their wits at being put out of work by robots. And the email that I wrote was sort of mocking that feeling. Oh, the robots are coming, batten down the hatches, it's going to be horrible. And I then went on to make the point that if you can write in a unique voice, in a creative way, and stand above the mushy AI or blah, blah, blah middle, then you will continue to stand out. And it's, in fact, all the more reason to be learning to do this more effectively than just putting out that same blah, blah, blah content. All that the robots are doing is putting out blah, blah, blah content faster than human beings can do. So back to the metaphor. I actually, in this email, asked one of the AI tools to write, define batten down the hatches, because when I said batten down the hatches, I made a little joke, parentheses, whatever that means, because people use that expression and don't even realize that it's a nautical term. So I wrote, batten down the hatches, the robots are coming, batten down the hatches, whatever that means. So later in the piece, I said, hey, AI engine, define batten down the hatches and then offer up 5 tips for battening down the hatches. And it wrote this brilliant little thing. The copy was boring, but it actually was very coherent, and it had some really interesting tips. And I'm going to do a future email where I share that story about, I asked AI to do this, and the tips were all really interesting potential metaphors for how to operate a business. For example, after you batten down the hatches, double check to make sure there are no leaks. That's a really interesting business metaphor that I can draw on and tell a story about, the leaky, the time that, I battened down the hatches and things leaked after all. Here's the business lesson from that. So it's a good example of, you can take things that happen in your life and turn them into metaphors for business lessons. But again, what business lessons are you telling? Well, you're telling the business lessons that are relevant to the journeys your prospects want to take, or else what's the point? And so sometimes I'm telling direct stories of experiences I had with a client. Other times I'm using a metaphor, a scene from a movie, sports. You and I were talking offline about the World Cup. We both are sports fans. Sports is often a great metaphor for life and business lessons. And all of those things become great fodder for, instead of just giving a lecture, another blah, 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 here are tips about this. Metaphors are creative ways to make a point that are more entertaining and more interesting and more story powered than the typical stuff.
Yeah. Awesome, mate. Thanks for delving deeper into that, and love that thing. And yes, AI is definitely changing the world in an interesting way at the moment, and good to be around it and how you can utilize it. So I love those examples as well.
Yeah, it's a great tool. It's a powerful tool, and there are a lot of things that you can do, including to support research and story discovery. So I'm not one of these guys who's standing on high saying, oh, AI, it's horrible, nobody needs it, we're all better than the robots. Now, the robots can do a lot of things better than we can. It's understanding where we have opportunities and advantage, especially over all the humans who are going to rely on this. There are lots of people who now say, oh, I can just write emails with the AI. Great. Right away, because write all those emails with AI, because all you'll do is sound like the gazillions of other people who are writing emails with AI. How do you stand out? You stand out by developing your own voice, by putting your own personality, your own creativity into it. And that's something that's a very human enterprise and sets you apart. People want to do business with humans.
Yeah. Definitely love that, mate, as well. And, obviously there's many limiting beliefs that pop up. We've already talked about one earlier, but another one could be that people say, when I speak to people, they don't want to hear stories. They just want to get the facts from me, or something like that. So what are your thoughts on what you would tell these types of people if they're a little bit skeptical at this time?
Yeah. I mean, this applies especially, coaches, professional service providers, so forth. They often think that they have to, when they go out to the world to present themselves, act in a very professional way. I am a professional. I am very serious. Whatever. And then the irony in that is that when they really get to know their clients and get down to doing business, the guard comes down and the personality comes out. And so you're a certain way as a human being, and then you wear this professional veil. So I coach and teach that you should be putting content out there that reflects the real you, that's authentic, that reflects your personality. Write and appear on video the way you speak, the way you would speak to a friend. Use colloquial expressions. Don't be so focused on having the absolutely perfect grammar that your 8th grade grammar teacher will love and give you an A+ for. We don't speak with one another in perfect, complete sentences every time. So writing in a way that sounds more like we speak, that has more personality, that may feel at first a little scary because it seems less professional, that's how you should do it. Because most of the people who are trying to express themselves in this super professional way, storytelling is not professional, I'm going to pretend that I'm a lecturer at a business conference and here are the tips, or that I'm a professor teaching you things, that's boring. And it's not that information is important and delivering the right information is critical, but have fun, deliver it with personality, wrap it inside a story, and it will be more memorable. It will be more captivating. People will tune in. People will know, like, and trust you more as a result. And no one is going to say to you, oh, you violated some grand professional standard and I don't want to do business with you.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Love all of that. Let's go a little bit deeper into the sales side of things now, because
Sure.
that's obviously a key thing in business, probably the most important skill to have. Otherwise, you don't have a business. And you mentioned before about using the story in the sales type of process. So do you want to talk just a little bit more about how we can actually use it so that we can actually get people or businesses to get the sales? Like what's a little bit of some tips around that as well?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll share with you one that I'm probably going to send to my list tomorrow. Just something that happened to me today, and so I'll tell you the story as if, hey, Athin, we met up at a bar after work, and I'm telling you this story. So this guy named Barry, who used to run a company here in St. Louis that competes with us, out of the blue, I get a direct message from him on LinkedIn a week ago. Hey, Tom, it's Barry. Would love to meet with you, compare notes, figure out how we might help one another, so on and so forth. Would you be up for a meeting? And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever, sure. We competed back in the day. We didn't know each other that well. I was surprised to hear from him, but I thought, yeah, okay, let's meet. And so we get on the call on Zoom today. It happened 3 hours ago. And first thing out of his mouth, so both of our companies were in St. Louis, and we competed for 8 years before I think his company went away. And first thing out of his mouth was, where are you from, Tom? And I thought, what? Where am I from? And I said, St. Louis. And he said, oh yeah, St. Louis. Oh yeah. And I said, St. Louis, MarketVolt, my company. He's like, oh yeah, I remember your name looked familiar, MarketVolt. So how's it going at MarketVolt? And I said, well, we sold MarketVolt 3 years ago. And he said, oh, what do you do now? And I laughed. I started laughing, and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought," and because I didn't want to just go off on this guy, and but I just couldn't believe it, and I started laughing, and then I explained what I do and gave him the thing about story power, and then I asked him what he does, and the first thing he said is, "I run a LinkedIn appointment setting business." I said, "Oh," he said, "Yeah, we help our clients schedule meetings like this one. And I said, oh, so you used the system that you apply for your clients to set up this meeting with me? And he said, yep. And I thought for a moment, I'm going to now say, dude, here's why I will never hire you. I will never hire you because if you yourself can't bother to look at my LinkedIn profile, know what I do, know I'm no longer at MarketVolt, remind yourself that I'm the guy who used to compete with you, because and I'm not offended that he didn't remember me. I'm going off on the fact that he reached out to me, asked me to meet on Zoom, and didn't come to the meeting prepared with any knowledge of what I do, which means he didn't really have any knowledge of how we might help each other. He didn't, it's just this mechanical speed dial quantity over quantity thing that's going on all over the internet. So here's what's going on there. One of the things that we're teaching our clients and that our clients want to know is, how can I generate leads comfortably? And how can I navigate the marketing maze? And how can I make real connections with real human beings? Well, one of the ways is by doing a series of things, such as I write all the time about, I tell stories about don't do the automated spam, spray and pray kind of marketing on LinkedIn. And what I could do is write an email that's the same old blah, blah, blah. When you're marketing on LinkedIn, it's very important that before you schedule an appointment, you review somebody's profile, understand what they do, understand whether they're a good fit, how you might help them and how they might help you. And only then should you reach out. That's the lecture. But what I'm doing is I'm taking this thing that happened to me that made me roll my eyes and laugh, and I'm just going to share it in an email. And I'm going to say, here's the moral of the story. The moral of the story is, and I'm going to say, don't schedule an appointment with somebody on LinkedIn unless you know who they are, what they do, and why you're talking to them and what you're bringing to the table. The information will land with such resonance compared to the lecture, because I, in a friendly, funny way, I'm sharing it as a story. I'm sharing it as a funny thing. But it's not just any story. There are funny and weird things that happen to all of us every day. But I choose the ones that have meaning to the journeys that my prospects are on. Figuring out how to navigate social media, figuring out how to make real human connections with real prospects. This guy runs an agency and did like 17 things wrong. And it's a funny story as a result. And I don't think he's on my email list, but he'll see it when I post it on social media, I suppose. Oh, by the way, the other thing about it is, I cut him off, we do these 17 things and whatever. And the story ended with me saying, yeah, I'm pretty well covered in all those things. And my clients are too. Not sure that I have anything for you. I pretty much ended the call quickly. And 2 minutes after the call ended, he went and looked at my profile on LinkedIn, which he had not done before. It's like, there's so many great lessons, and it's a funny story. And so I don't know. I think that answered your question. It's just stuff like that happens every day. Something happens, something I read, something I see in a movie, something I see in a sporting event that triggers this will resonate. This has meaning to my audience. And it gives me an opportunity to make a point about something that's really important without it being, yet again, the same old boring lecture. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely, mate. What an amazing story there. Completely agree.
Yeah.
With the fundamentals and all of that. And I love the example, because it definitely portrayed, how something happens and how we can then translate that into how we connect with our clients. So thank you.
When he said, "What do you do now?" I just thought to myself, "You got to be kidding me." And then he said, "I'm a LinkedIn appointment setter," and I thought, you're that kind of LinkedIn appointment setter. Awesome.
It only takes 1 minute to look at a LinkedIn profile, really.
Exactly.
It could take longer. It's hilarious. Some people these days, anyway, it'll come back to him in different ways there. So all good.
Yep.
So what I want to talk about now is that, coaching and mentoring, because a lot of the time, you help with coaches and stuff as well yourself, and you being, coaching, consulting, it's a big part of business, be able to, shortcut things and learn from, people that have things that we don't have or know. So how important has coaching and mentoring been for you in business, and what it's helped you do?
Oh, wow. I mean, just hugely important. And I love the PDF that you offer on your website. And I think the final point that you make is, embrace coaching and mentoring. And I'm just a huge believer in that, and the notion that you don't fly alone, and that you're not, and that you be transparent about it. So I run a coaching program, and I'm constantly referencing back to, I learned this thing from my coach, this coach, and I named them the other day, and I'm going to share with you something today that's an insight that I worked on in this program with this coach. So coaching and mentoring, not just on marketing strategies and tactics, but also mindset, the inner game, all aspects of personal and human and business development. I wouldn't be where I am right now, and wouldn't be accomplishing what I've accomplished if not for the coaching that I've done. And I'll make one more point. It's a story about mindset work in particular, because I know that's a big part of your coaching practice. I used to be the guy who thought, I don't need any of that mindset stuff. And I wrote about that. Now it goes back a couple of years ago. There used to be a character on Saturday Night Live called Stuart Smalley. It was that character was played by Al Franken, who later went on to become a U.S. senator here in the U.S. And what Al Franken did with the Stuart Smalley character is he basically was mocking the self-help kind of life coaches who are. He was making fun. The character was pathetic, and he's introduced by saying, I've gone through 27 self-help programs, and now, by the way, he's not talking in the deep, confident voice. He's sort of sheepish and so forth. And hard to explain if you've not seen the character, but it was mocking the self-affirmation, self-help stuff. And this was happening in the 80s or early 90s, I forget when. And when I had mentors early in my career who were saying, you should do inner game work, mindset work, you should meditate, so on and so forth, I was like, I'm not doing that Stuart Smalley crap. And I had this attitude about mindset work, and I shared that very story with my list to say, it took me many years to get over that and realize what an enormous mistake that was. And I was late to the game of committing to mindset work and a mindset practice. And I now have that built into my routine. I have coaches I've worked with. I have programs I've been through. I've adopted practices myself. I share what I know, which is not nearly as much as you and others who do this with my clients, because in the business of content creation, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of imposter syndrome. There's a lot of hesitation around sales feeling yucky. I don't want to come off as a sleazy used car salesman. All due respect to car salesmen, whom I have some. I know some car salesmen, and they're wonderful people. And but there's all sorts of fear and mindset struggles that I encounter in my own client base. So again, a long answer, but the bottom line is, yeah, coaching for me personally, coaching as a recommendation to my clients. So I'm not the only one. Go and work with somebody who can help you with mindset and invest in that. I think so many people think that the investments they have to make as business people are in tools, tactics, strategies around time management, marketing, the operations of a business. And they don't put on the same plane the coaching around their mental state, their mindset, their focus, their whatever you want to call it, the inner game. And I think you have to invest. It's as important, if not more important, than the other stuff. So a shout out for what you do, because I know you do it well, and it's important, so important.
Yeah, love that, Tom. What a great answer. Completely agree with all of that, how important coaching mentoring is from both sides, and the strategies, tactics, and tools, as well as the mindset, as you said, because it could be one mindset belief that holds people back, and you can give them all the strategies and tactics and tools, but if they don't believe it or whatever, then it's not going to happen. So love that you've shared that as well, mate, and completely agree. And yeah, it's been a value-packed episode today, where we've gone deep in on everything. And just as we're wrapping up, what one key piece of advice would you like to give to all the entrepreneurs watching and listening today?
Yeah, I think the one key piece of advice I would give is be curious, pay attention, and listen. All of the sort of tactical things that I'm talking about depend on you opening your eyes and paying attention to the world around you, and drawing joy and excitement from that. That's how you become an empathetic person. Pay attention to the other and become fascinated by the other and what they're going through. Pay attention to all of the things that are happening around you and notice them. That's feed your curiosity, open your eyes, pay attention, and you will become a better coach and consultant and creator. So that's my advice.
Awesome, mate. Definitely love that advice. Really powerful. And yeah, we connected through our networks, where I learned about your awesome journey from, being a reporter to email marketing to, story power marketing. And, you're an awesome guy. I'm sure you continue to help, coaches, consultants, and other experts to transform their content. And I'm very grateful that we connected, and I look forward to working with you. So, Tom, how can people find you, get in contact with you?
Yeah, the best place to go is to my website, Story Power Marketing, all one word, no dots or hyphens or anything, storypowermarketing.com. And there you'll see a button to join my email list. And the best way to get a feel for what I do, to see it in action, is to sign up for my email list. Then once you're on the email list, you'll see at the bottom various opportunities to reach out, to connect with me further, to learn more. And also on the website, there's a link to resources, free downloads, some video trainings, things like that you can dive into right away once you visit the site. But I do encourage you to join the email list, to see how I do it, to be entertained, to have a little bit of fun, to laugh from time to time, wake up with me in the morning from time to time. So thank you, Athin. I really, really appreciate you having me on the show and letting me share some of my stories.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Love it. Very, very powerful. Definitely check out Tom and see what he does. He does it well, as you've heard from us today. And thank you to everyone for watching and listening to this show, where we talk about everything on business growth. And please like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. And you can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as Athin Cassiotis. I visit my website, athincassiotis.com. And if you want to grow and scale your business, you can reach out to me on any platform to see if we're a good fit. And I completely agree with you. Or do I? The only way we know is if you tune in next time. So until next time, remember that our business grows when we learn skills and take action using them in spite of fear. So remember to design your growth and results.